Good day. Welcome to News Now on TV360. I am Thelma Okoro. The Nigerian military on Wednesday said troops have been fighting with the Boko Haram militant group over control of a northeastern town. Army spokesman Sani Usman in a statement said the army had made a push to take over Malam Faturi, a remote town in Borno State near Lake Chad, when Boko Haram moved in reinforcements. He said the troops eventually captured the town after a fierce gun battle closely covered by air operations. Meanwhile, the Islamists claim to have inflicted heavy casualties on the Nigerian army. In a statement posted on social media, the terrorists said it annihilated a convoy of the African Coalition Center forces in the town of Malam Faturi. The extremists put the casualty figure at more than 40 troops from a multinational joint task force. The military is now, however, yet to confirm the claim. Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari held talks with U.S. President Barack Obama. The U.S. President lauded the efforts of the leader of Nigeria in the fight against corruption and terrorism. Both presidents met on the sidelines of the 71st United Nations General Assembly holding in New York. Obama described Nigeria as a very important country in the Committee of Nations, which is why his administration decided to assist the administration in the fight against corruption. President Obama also pledged to assist in the area of economy, agriculture, promising to inject more funds to assist Nigeria come out of its recession. President Buhari also assured Obama that Nigeria is making steady progress towards resolving the problem in the Niger Delta region. Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari has called for a permanent seat for Africa in the United Nations Security Council. He also sought the establishment of United Nations Agency for Youth, saying it will enable countries take advantage of the number of youths and their creative energy. He told the assembly that youths were in the majority in Nigeria and in most other member states. President Buhari made the demands while addressing the UN General Assembly. He highlighted that Africa's permanent membership on the UN Security Council would reflect equitable and fair representation and greater transparency. Nigeria's House of Representatives began its first day after a long recess with a rowdy session. At the resumed sitting on Wednesday, the rowdy sitting occurred when a motion demanding the investigation of the Speaker of the House, Yakubu Dogara, for allegedly padding the 2016 budget. This follows the motion suggesting the suspension of Representative Dogara to allow the Ethics Committee investigate the allegation. The second motion is also asking for the investigation of the former House Committee Chairman on Appropriation, Abdulmumun Jibrin, for allegedly heaping corruption allegations on the entire House and the Speaker. The issue began when Jibrin accused the Speaker of the House of unlawfully using his position to divert money meant for constituency projects for personal use, an allegation the Speaker has since denied. However, in a unanimous decision, the House agreed that the Ethics Committee should commence immediate investigation of Jibrin for misconduct and allegations of budget padding. Barely 48 hours after the Supreme Court affirmed his election as the duly elected governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello has promised to make peace with all aggrieved members of the party, which is the All Progressives Congress. Bello has been entangled in a long battle with the former governor of the state, Idris Wada, and James Faleke, the deputy governorship candidate of his party in the election. He said he had already begun reaching out to them, pledging to carry them along in the governance of the state.
I assure you that your spirit is alive, and I will not disappoint you. The great vision you have for our state, I am going to even fulfill even more for our dear state. Kogi State will never remain the same. I feel that God has actually given me a huge responsibility.
Opponents, not opponents, opponents.
I wouldn't say I am joyous because I know that the task ahead is much. There are a lot to be accomplished. The decision of today will only spur me to do more and to live up to the responsibility and be ready to face the challenge that are ahead. First thing first is to reach out to them, which I've been doing before now. I'll continue to reach out to them and then even give them responsibilities to undertake for Kogi State, because I can't do it alone. As I speak with you today, we have been able to save not less than 1.4 billion It was a tough decision. The exercise is still ongoing, even though the earlier one was concluded, but because of complaints that we're having from either on the genuine workers or non-genuine ones, we have to set up the review committee or complaint review committee in order than that we tackle it. So such decision was tough, but we have to take it. I will remind you that previous administrations, 2 administrations attempted it, if not 3, and they failed because they couldn't take that tough decision. But we have to take it. We must sacrifice today so that our future can be better.
Yahaya Bello's emergence as the governor of Kogi State followed the death of the APC gubernatorial flag bearer, Audu Abubakar, who died during the November 2015 election conducted in the state. While the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) held that the said election was already declared inconclusive due to the irregularities in various polling units before Abubakar's death. James Faleke, running mate of the APC platform, argued he had to be pronounced the governor. He subsequently took the case to court where he lost eventually. On Tuesday, a 7-man panel headed by Justice Sylvester Ngwata affirmed the elections after listening to the closing statement of all the counsels. Faleke says he has accepted the ruling of the Supreme Court. Kaduna State has been struck by yet another earth tremor. The incident occurred in Jaba local government area of the state. The tremor, which happened on Tuesday, was accompanied by a heavy vibration, forcing many of the residents to flee the community. Schools in the city have also been reportedly shut down following the incident. Last week, 2 cases of tremor left residents in a state of panic. However, no life was lost in the incident. Here is how one of the residents described the first incident, which occurred on September 11th.
Most of our people were in the churches. We were in their churches. In fact, we experienced something that we have never heard or seen in this our place. It shook us. Even those that were asleep, in fact, woke up. This thing lasted for some minutes. It stopped. After 2 hours, it reoccurred. People were panicked. We thought that the end of the world has come. All the rocks shook. Almost every place was in total confusion, because something that you have never experienced, if you experience it the first time, you know you must panic. Some of our people even left their houses and fled somewhere for safety. Among the districts that were affected, Fada district, Sabangari district, Forget district, Sabzura district, Fike, Nok, Chori districts, Samban district, and many other districts. But we thank God, most of our people, most especially the paramount chief, calmed us down. He told us not to panic, because he believed that God will not just let his people down. But it was so terrifying that many people could not bear it. We thank God that it stopped that day. It occurred by 5 a.m. in the morning of Monday, 12. In fact, that one was so terrible that we never knew that our buildings were not going to collapse.
Amnesty International has accused a Nigerian police unit of torturing suspects and demanding bribes to free them. The rights group said people arrested by the Special Anti-Robbery Squad (SARS) were starved, beaten, shot, and also subjected to mock executions until they either made a confession or paid officers a bribe to be released. SARS was set up to probe violent crimes, primarily armed robberies and kidnappings. The report, which was republished on Wednesday, contains horrific details of former detainees. It also encloses reports from lawyers, human rights defenders, journalists, and also collected testimonies. The Nigerian police has, however, denied the allegations. Police spokesman Don Awuna has said the police did not, quote, employ torture or any other form of unauthorized technique in criminal investigation. He said investigators are trained to conform to international best practices. Nigeria has filed a lawsuit against Italian energy firm Eni as well as U.S. major Chevron and other international oil firms over some crude exports. This was confirmed by the oil companies on Wednesday. Eni said the claim dates back to last March and refers to a request to its subsidiary in Nigeria for a payment of about $160 million. Media reports say Nigeria sued Eni's unit Ajib and France Total for $635 million for allegedly undeclared crude cargoes between 2011 and 2014. The lawsuit might further sow the mood of oil majors, which have been shot and hit by militant attacks in the Niger Delta region. Factional PDP leaders Ali Modu Sheriff and Ahmed McCarthy held a meeting in Abuja, the nation's capital, as they sought to end the lingering crisis in the party. At the end of the meeting, representatives of each faction jointly addressed a press conference where they said their leaders had settled the case. Now, they also said they were working together to reposition the party. The caretaker committee was led to the meeting by its National Secretary Ben Obi, while Cairo Ojobo, who is the Deputy National Chairman of the Sheriff faction, led its members. It was the first time they would agree to work together since the party split into two factions after the National Convention of the party in Port Harcourt, the River State capital, in May this year.
In reviewing the crisis that has engulfed our party, the PDP, since the loss of the 2015 general elections after 16 years of uninterrupted leadership at the center, it became obvious to both of us as principal actors that it is time to heal the wounds and bring about a united, focused, and constructive opposition party that can bring sanity to our democratic process, bringing relief to the teeming supporters of our great party, the PDP, and to the benefit of our great country, Nigeria. Based on the above, we have both agreed to A, consult widely with all relevant organs of the party. B, set up a joint committee that will carry out a holistic reconciliation of all aggrieved segments of our party across the country and in diaspora. C, pursue the vision of the founding fathers of our great party, the PDP. Details of all the above will be made public soonest. We therefore call on all party members to remain calm and refrain from making any actions and utterances that could further bring about divisions or disputes in the party. Signed, Senator Ali Modu Sheriff, Senator Ahmed McCarthy, for the PDP. Thank you very much.
Senate President Bukola Saraki has urged the executive to increase capital from the sale of government assets and other sources to shore up reserves. Senator Saraki gave this recommendation at the House as the Senate resumed fully after a 7-week break. Saraki said that the sale of assets would calm investors, discourage currency speculation, and stabilize the Nigerian economy. He suggested part sale of the NLNG holdings, reduction of government share in upstream oil joint venture, as well as operation and sale of government stake in financial institutions. The federal government has been advised against selling off national assets such as its shares in the Nigerian Liquefied Natural Gas Limited, NLNG, and other assets as a way of getting out of the current economic recession. In a statement released, Acting Chairman of the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission, Shatima Abagana, said it would be unwise for the government to sell off its key investment just to address its short-term financial crisis. According to him, assets such as the NLNG are some of the main revenue generators of the government. Abagana said the amount expected to be generated from the sale of some of the nation's assets could be borrowed from the International Monetary Fund. The Nigerian Navy offshore patrol vessel has been completed and is on her way to join the Nigerian Navy fleet. This was contained in a statement issued by the Nigerian Navy. The ship has been under construction in China, and it departed on Wednesday and is expected to arrive in Nigeria in November this year. The Navy says the patrol vessel NNS Unity is scheduled to join the NN fleet in order to strengthen the efforts against all maritime crimes and illegalities in the nation's territorial waters. You've been watching TV360 News. Now we'll take a short break and we'll come back. We'll look at business and international stories. Don't go away.
Corruption not in my country.
What is wrong with you? Man saying no? Said I drew for more than 1 hour.
Ìyá mi, ọ̀rọ̀ yín náà ni mò ń ṣe. Ọ̀rọ̀ yín náà ni mò ń ṣe. Ká kúrò fún Ọlọ́run. Ká satisfy yín níbi ọ̀rọ̀ yín náà ni mò ń ṣe.
Ẹ wo jẹ́ ká jàre ká kúrò nbí báyìí.
Ẹ jọ̀ọ́ ẹ má bínú. Hello ọ̀gá. Màá dọ́dọ̀ yín lẹ́sẹ̀ I'm assure you 5 minutes. Màá dọ́dọ̀ yín ẹ gbà bẹ́ẹ̀.
You are deceiving another customer just like you deceived us.
The same way he deceived us.
Eh? Why?
Ètò ní iṣẹ́ yìí. Bó o bá kúrò ò lè jẹun, ò lè jẹun. Bó o bá kúrò ò lè jẹun ìyá mi. Bó o bá kúrò ò lè jẹun. Workshop mi lélẹ́yìí. Ibi tí èèyàn bá ti ń ṣe ló ti ń jẹ. Ìyẹn ló ń pè ní workshop. Ibi tó bá ti ń work ni kó má ti shop.
You cannot base your business on lies. Calm down now. It is corruption and it cannot work. Not in my country.
Corruption not in my country.
Glad to have you back. The Central Bank of Nigeria's Monetary Policy Committee has decided to retain the country's benchmark interest rate at 14%. The CBN also decided to leave the existing cash reserve ratios for commercial banks at 22.5%. The latest decision comes despite an advice from the country's finance minister, Kemi Adeosun, to lower interest rates so the government can borrow domestically to boost the Nigerian economy.
The direction through which you want to achieve it may differ for as long as you still achieve the growth. The issues here, just like we read in the communique, is that when you say reduce interest rates, there are two possibilities here. You are saying because you want that to spur credit to the private sector at lower rates. Or two, which I have heard the fiscal authority talk about, is that the fiscal authority needs to be able to borrow at lower rates to spend. Our own view at the MPC, because this was exhaustively discussed, and we said, well, in the past, there was a time when the MPC took a decision not only to reduce the policy rate, but indeed also reduce the cash reserve. These were intended to lower rates and encourage spending, particularly to the private sector. After we did that, the following meeting we also said, because we did not see the impact of credit to the private sector, that we needed to further reduce the CRR, because during that first session, when we reduced the CRR from 30.5 to 25%, it provided an opportunity for about 1 trillion naira that was injected by the CBN into the economy or made available to the banks. Rather than loan these monies to the banks, loan them to consumers, to agri manufacturing and SMEs, like we said at the communique, we found that those credits went to traders who used them in demanding for foreign exchange, which ended up putting pressure on the foreign exchange market. That was what happened. Subsequent to that, we said, fine, since this money wasn't deployed directly, that we were also reducing the CRR then from 25% to where it is right now, which is 22.5. That was going to provide close to about 350 to 500 billion naira through that avenue. But we said we were not going to allow the banks to really have the cash until they sent proposals to the Central Bank of Nigeria for a primary agri projects, new manufacturing projects, and other kind of projects that will spur industrial capacity and manufacturing output. I must confess that the proposals we received were mainly for purposes of refinancing the liquidity of the banks. And we thought that was not what we wanted, and that's the reason we've been a little bit circumspect about releasing some of those liquidity. But we are looking at the books. There are indeed some very few of them that have submitted proposals for agric, that have submitted proposals for new manufacturing projects that we'll be considering in due course. Now, the second part of it was that, yes, if you lower the interest rate, what that would do is that it makes it possible for the fiscal authorities to borrow at lower rates. We're saying, fine, if you borrow at lower rates to stimulate spending, what that does is that, well, yes, it stimulates demand for goods. But when you stimulate demand for goods by providing cash or money to be spent without taking action to boost industrial capacity, taking actions to boost manufacturing output, what happens is that you will see a situation where you have too much money chasing too few goods, which will also worsen the inflationary conditions that we are now. And that's why we're saying the option that we would like to adopt is, while the fiscal is going ahead to spend, right, what we want to do is to say, at this meeting, retain the rates where they are. When you say retain the rates where they are, you are still saying you want to maintain the fairly tight situation, so that will again, like we said at the last meeting, encourage inflow of capital. Because I must say it, truly I wasn't that optimistic initially, but today I'm saying that I'm looking optimistic, because between July and now, we've seen inflow of FX of above $1 billion. What were these used for? These were used to procure raw materials, or manufacturers bought the dollars to import raw materials. When you import raw materials, those manufacturers that said that they were closing would have the opportunity to now employ people. When you employ people, you increase your productivity, you produce your goods, the price of goods will be moderated from the monetary standpoint. Then you find the demand that you are spurring from the fiscal authority coming to match the demand, such that it does not result in an inflationary condition. That's what we're saying.
Bank deposits are mainly short-term in nature, and lending such funds to customers for long-term can lead to asset mismatch. Now, this is according to bank chiefs who spoke at the 2016 Annual Conference of Financial Correspondents Association of Nigeria (FICAN) in Lagos, Southwest Nigeria. The execs say although the lenders want the economy to grow by lending to farmers and other productive sectors of the economy, they also have to keep an eye on the stability of their institutions. Our correspondent Abiola Ismail now reports.
It is a forum where stakeholders in the banking, export trade and agricultural sector have come together to chart a way forward for Nigeria's economy. For long, Nigeria's banks have been accused of not engaging in long-term lending to the real sector, but the bankers at this gathering put up a strong defense, saying that is outside their core mandates. Managing Director of Fidelity Bank, Nnamdi Okonkwo, says there is no proper framework to enable local banks lend long-term to small and medium-scale enterprises. On his part, Group Head at Greek Finance Heritage Bank Limited, Olugbengawe, said, inasmuch as banks will want to lend to non-oil sectors of the economy, the lenders always look out for customers' history of previous transactions to ensure that the loan will be repaid.
It's easier when you're borrowing in local currency. A lot of the people that actually borrowed in foreign currency, suffered exchange losses. But these ones are friendly priced at 9%. He talked about what goes to the banks. Truly, he was actually making a case for us. But in spite of that, banks are still saying, okay, at least you don't worry about the liquidity, because CBN has provided liquidity. You only worry about managing the risk. The only thing is that we cannot price for risk as much as we would like to.
You are dealing with a lot of people. You are dealing with Vietnamese, you are dealing with Indians, you are dealing with a whole multitude of people. Some of them, you have not even seen them in your life. So, they are risky. The first one is payment, commercial risk. If I take this product abroad and I'm alone in a no man's land, who do I talk to? Because you can take your cocoa there and tell you the moisture content is more than 7%, the mold is there, sorry I can't take it. Or you take your charcoal and the issue is no, this is not the density we want.
But to exporters and manufacturers, they believe that banks' unwelcome attitude to lend credit to the real sector is partly responsible to the dwindling fortune of the economy in general.
If the bank guidelines make it so rigorous and difficult for the user, those who need the funds, to really access it, I really won't blame the bank at that point in time, for sure. But then, a common man doesn't know the government per se. He knows the banker. He knows he has some money in the bank, and he should be able to go to the bank and ask for the money, for the facilities to support his business. So this is where the issue with the bank comes in.
The Ghana sells cocoa at £80 above the market price, while Nigeria sells cocoa at minus £150. So if you add 150 plus 80, that is £230. That's the difference between the cocoa in Ghana and cocoa in Nigeria that has the same texture, the same aroma, the same quality. So we have a serious problem. And it starts from the ministry. I just said it then that you find out that Nigeria still use 1959 ordinance to grade cocoa in Nigeria.
Nigerian economy entered its second recession in the third quarter of last year, and since then, the country has been struggling to come out of it. The government has been injecting liquidity into the system to get the economy up and running again. It's urging the people to be patient, and the recession will be a short one. Abiola Ismail, TV360 Lagos.
Oil prices jumped over 1% on Wednesday, pushed by a reported draw in U.S. crude inventories and an oil service worker strike in Norway, which may impact output. Traders say firm import data from Japan also supported oil prices. U.S. crude futures were up at $44.90 per barrel, while Brent crude futures were at $46.53 per barrel. Overall, however, oil markets remain oversupplied as exporters around the world pump near record amounts. Oil producers from the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries OPEC and Russia plan to meet in Algeria next week to discuss measures to rein in the oversupply, including an oil production freeze at current output levels. But analysts say they did not expect significant results. At least 29 people have drowned after a migrant boat capsized off the Egyptian coast. The boat was carrying about 600 passengers, of which about 150 have been rescued, according to state media. The incident took place off the coast of Kafr al-Sheikh, officials say. Wednesday's incident comes as the head of the EU's border agency recently warned that increasing number of Europe-bound migrants are using Egypt as a departure point. The stricken boat was transporting Egyptians, Syrians, and African migrants. Human Rights Watch said on Wednesday it had credible reports that Democratic Republic of Congo security forces had killed at least 44 people during 2 days of violent protests against President Joseph Kabila. Ida Soya, who is the African researcher for the New York-based human rights group, said 20 people died on Monday and 17 others were killed overnight on Tuesday. The protests, attended by thousands, came at a time of growing local and international pressure on Joseph Kabila to step down from office when his term expires in December this year. The opposition accuses him of plotting to extend his tenure by delaying elections that were supposed to be held in November this year until at least next year. However, his supporters have since denied this. Falconers team coach Peter Debo has invited 30 players in preparation for this year's FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup. Among those invited are goalkeeper Sandra Chichi, defenders Ugochi Emenayo, Esther Elijah, midfielders Joy Bukiri and Tessie Biawo, as well as forwards Uchenna Kalu, Yetunde Adeboyejo and Chinaza Uchendu. The tournament is set to take place in Papua New Guinea in November 2016. The Falconets, who were runners-up at the 2014 edition, have been pulled in Group B with Spain, Japan, Canada, and they will begin their title very soon. The team defeated Liberia, Democratic of Congo, and South Africa in both legs in the qualifying series to book a place in the event. Four-time African Footballer of the Year Yaya Toure has announced his retirement from international football. The 33-year-old announced his retirement with a statement on his official Instagram account thanking the fans for their support in his 14 years with the Elephants. The Manchester City midfielder made 102 appearances for the national team, scoring 19 goals. He was part of the Ivorian team that won the African Cup of Nations in 2015. The former Barcelona player also became the first man to win the African Footballer of the Year 4 times. He won the award a record 4 consecutive times between 2011 and 2014. France Football has announced the winner of the 2016 Ballon d'Or award will be decided by a select pool of journalists. The magazine had last week announced that it ended the partnership with the World Football Governing Body FIFA on the award. The award, created in 2010, is usually awarded to the World Player of the Year, as voted by journalists, managers and captains of various national football teams. It had replaced the FIFA World Player of the Year and the European Footballer of the Year award. Now, according to the new rules, media representatives will vote for their best player from a pool of 30 nominated footballers, and there will be reportedly no announcement of the 3 finalists before the award is presented to the eventual winner. Well, that's all we have on news now. Thank you very much for watching. I am Thelma Okoro.